Morning. My name is Mike Gomez. I'm the director for the Center for the Study of Africa and the African Diaspora at New York University, or CSOD for short. And today we are hosting a webinar under the rubric of Diasporic Africa in Dialogue. And the particular topic for today is the US presidential election. So I want to welcome all of you who are um, viewing this webinar. And we are delighted to have with us two esteemed guests. I will provide a very brief introduction for both of them, and then we will proceed. First, we have Miss Ashley Bryant, who has been at the center of cultural change and politics for most of her career. After leaving the private sector as a marketer, her first foray into politics was serving as the digital director in Ohio on President Obama's reelection campaign in 2012. She is now a principal at AB Partners, leading the political engagement work, and is also a co-founder of Win Black / Palante, an operation countering misinformation and disinformation targeting Black and Latinx voters. She is also a Harvard Kennedy School Ash Center Tech and Democracy visiting fellow. Welcome, Ms. Bryant. Um, we also have with us Daniel Gillion, who is the Julie Barron Platt and Mark E. Platt Presidential Distinguished Professor of Political Science at the University of Pennsylvania, where he's also an affiliate faculty member with the Department for Africana Studies. He has written several award-winning books and journal articles on the subjects of political protest, racial and ethnic inequality, political discourse on race, political institutions, and the American presidency. His first book, The Political Power of Protest, Minority Activism and Shifts in Public Policy, published by Cambridge University Press, won the 2014 Best Book Award from the Race, Ethnicity, and Politics section of the American Political Science Association. Professor Gillion's recently completed book, Governing with Words, The Political Dialogue on Race, Public Policy, and Inequality in America, also published by Cambridge University Press, was awarded the 2017 W.B. Du Bois Book Award from the National Conference of Black Political Scientists. And so, as you can see, we are in good stead with these two guests. Before we proceed with the matter at hand, I wanted to acknowledge and thank Ms. Sharice Taylor, who is the CSOD administrator, for gathering us together once more. Ms. Bryant, perhaps we can begin with your giving us a sense of your work and your organization.
Sure, and I'm glad to be here today, 6 days out from the election. I hope my anxiety doesn't shine through today. But Win Black Palante was truly born out of not just the realization, but more the acknowledgement of the weaponization of digital media being used as a voter suppression tactic, especially towards Black and Brown voters. What we saw coming out of the 2016 election was a validation of how this is being used to suppress and depress Black voters. And so what we have built in our campaign operation is truly not just a content operation, but really a model to be replicated, especially not just in the progressive movement, because it's not a partisan operation. This is really acknowledging that misinformation and disinformation is a threat to our democracy, and that is essentially a threat to our country. And so, what we'd like to see is this model replicated in a sense of having resources and infrastructures that are built to monitor this disinformation that is targeting Black and Brown voters, and being able to counter that in real time, but effectively. And so, what we've been doing over the last year is a lot of message testing, content creation, and making sure that we're really building an echo chamber of the content that we know is going to be resonant to Black and Brown voters, but also really counteract a lot of the falsehoods that are being targeted to our voter base. And so, what we've been looking at, especially in these last 6 days, is a culmination of what we've been researching over the last year, knowing the trends, knowing that folks are using the confusion of the pandemic even to deter folks from voting. Really the confusing nature of vote by mail, the attacks of the USPS service, even confusing of the dates, whether you can early vote or register and vote in the same day, but also the records and accomplishments of the folks on the ballot. As we know, the top ticket is not just what's at stake here. These are also, we need folks to be engaged and educated about races up and down the ticket. And so, Win Black Palante has been really focused on making sure that we are dispelling a lot of this misinformation, but also being focused on the positive and aspirational nature of this election, and getting the content out there that we know is going to move people to take action and be civic participators.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And if I may, well, a follow-up question: how principally are you reaching your voters? How are you? Is this through, um, what are the media that you use to reach your voters?
Sure. So, what I like to call as a secret sauce is that we've built a network of grassroots organizations that we're actually getting this message out through their channels. Because for us, it wasn't about just building, we didn't want a new brand. We didn't need Win Black Palante to be the new shiny thing in the progressive movement. But what we want to do is make sure that we are sustaining the infrastructures that grassroots organizations have built. And so we've put $2 million in the space going through our partner organizations online. And so we are building this echo chamber, as I mentioned, through social media, through paid media advertising, buying TV space. And really, we're attacking the opposition where they are the strongest, right? And so in order for us to actually be a counter operation, we actually need to be where they are. And so we're buying up the same amount of space, but with better content and things that are actually going to be effective.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Bryant. Dr. Gillion, could you tell us a little more about your own work and in all of its aspects?
For sure. I also want to say thank you for having me here today to talk to you and speak about this very important subject matter with the elections just right around the corner. Especially making sure that Black and Brown communities get out there, cast their ballot, and stay informed on what's taking place in America today. So my research is about racial and ethnic inequality. I speak a lot about the American presidency, but I focus in a lot on political protests, actually. And if you look over the last couple of months, I mean, this summer was an amazing summer for protest actions. And you go back to that George Floyd video, I mean, it touched all of us. And you saw many people hit the streets and put forth their passionate concerns. And so what my research does, I just completed a book earlier this year called The Loud Minority, is it speaks to whether or not those protests on the street, whether they matter, whether they influence individuals. I think back to that summer and shortly following those incidents and even weeks later, we saw President Trump say that, hey, he wants the silent majority to stand with him, and said that these things need law and order. It gave the impression that individuals putting forth their passionate concerns didn't matter, as though individuals weren't paying attention. And so in my research, what I do is I debunk that. I basically debunked that before it even was uttered, because we heard the same playbook with Richard Nixon. I show that when racial and ethnic minorities put forth their passionate concerns on the street with protest actions, it has the ability to affect every single stage of the electoral process. It influences campaign contributions. It influences voter turnout, and it actually influences electoral outcomes. And that's what we've seen actually since the summer of those major protests, all the way up till, even backyard in West Philadelphia. People are fed up, and they want the system to change. And so my research speaks to that change and how it's taking place, in that it is taking place, which is really important. And so that is the research that I conduct.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gillion. Well, as Ms. Bryant mentioned, we are now 6 days out from these national elections. Most polls continue to show a steady, though in instances narrowing, lead for Joe Biden over the current president, both in the popular vote and in the electoral count. However, of course, we learned from 2016 that polling is far from an exact science, to put it diplomatically. What's your overall assessment of where we are as we move toward November the 3rd? You're free to speak about the presidential race. You're free to speak about senatorial, contests in various places. But what's your overall assessment of where we are, Ms. Bryant?
I can start, I guess. I'm finding wanting to be more optimistic. That is essentially how I'm keeping sane in these last couple of days. But I'll be honest, I think early vote numbers are encouraging. They're encouraging for a lot of reasons. We do know that Black voters specifically tend to be the majority of early vote participants. And so when we're seeing over 48 million folks showing out already in this election, those are encouraging numbers. I think, what we are seeing as well is a complete evolution of voter suppression when we're seeing counties that have millions, double-digit numbers of voters with one polling location, right? We think about Texas, we think about Indiana, we think about Kentucky. And so, I think what is important is that we remember that a 5-hour line is nothing compared to the fight that we've been in to be able to exercise our right to vote. And so as we think about how are we talking or messaging to our communities and voters, it's really making sure that folks know this is just a drop in the bucket, right? To be able to cast your vote. And so I think that, while I want to stay encouraged around these early vote numbers, which are, well outperforming 2016, in some states even outperforming 2012, I think that we also want to be cognizant that the right is also excited to cast their ballots, and so we can't actually take that for granted. And so I think that we are most certainly walking into a contested election. We have a president who has completely said there's no concession in sight. There will not be an easy transition of power if he was to lose his position. And so we certainly have to be prepared for a contested election. But I think as organizations like my own and across the space, really being focused on making sure that every vote is counted, which sounds cliche, right? But it's actually the only thing that we have, right? Is to stay in the fight and make sure, even in 2018, where we saw in Georgia with Stacey Abrams' race specifically, voter protection was a key part of that race. And, I confidently say that race was stolen from Stacey Abrams. And so we've been able to actually see that, right? We've been able to see what these tactics look like, to be able to run for governor and still sit as the Secretary of State. That's the country that we're in. So I think that we need to be cognizant of what we're up against in a lot of these states where similar things are happening. When you talked about Senate races, we're looking at some of the most contested seats, most important seats that are up for grabs democratically. And a lot of these are in those areas where it's down to one polling location when you have, almost 15 million people in the county. And so I think that we have to be prepared for what a contested election looks like. We have to start understanding the legislation and really leaning on our ability to count every vote in these areas.
Dr. Gillion, before I come to you, if I may have just follow up very quickly with Ms. Bryant. Is my understanding accurate that at least in some of these states, we were talking about early voting, that registered Republican participation is outpacing registered Democratic participation? Is that
definitely? I mean, there's counties where Republican participation is certainly doubled or tripled in some areas, and so we can't, like I said, looking at early vote numbers, typically we generally can say, these are exciting numbers because, again, especially in the Black communities, a lot of folks, their plan to vote is to early vote. When we see early vote numbers doubling and tripling, it is typically around Black and Brown voters. But I think what we're seeing here, especially because of the pandemic, more folks are trying to make a safe voting plan, whether they believe in wearing masks or not. They want to make sure that they're allowing themselves more time to be able to cast their vote. And so that excitement can't actually be attributed just to, typical more aligned Democratic or progressive voters.
Okay. Dr. Gillion, how do you see the picture? What's your overall analysis of where we are?
I think where we are right now is in a situation that Biden is winning handedly. If you look at the polls from 2016, I think a lot of pollsters and individuals that surveyed the American public, they didn't get it completely right. I mean, they got the popular vote right, but when you look in some of these states, they didn't get it right. And then maybe it was because some individuals were quietly supporting Trump. They didn't express it to surveyors, or maybe they just weren't surveying the right people. I think as a consequence of that, in 2020, some of these polling places have been a tad bit more cautious with their numbers, and they've made some adjustments. And so if Biden is winning by 3 to 4 percentage points, he potentially could be winning by 4 to 5 percentage points, given the conservatism of the way that they're approaching things. You combine that with the fact that there is a major mobilization effort on the Democratic side that hasn't just started this year, that has been taking place for quite some time now, over the last couple of years. You look at 2018, there was a major blue wave that came. And I think that came because of the major movements and protests we saw, the women's movements. We also saw movements dealing with guns in our schools, and that led to a change in the House. I think that momentum is still going to carry. It's almost been amplified now with what we saw in the summer of 2020. In any other given election year, I would consider this to be an absolute landslide for Biden. But we're not in any other election.
Right.
But we're not in any other election year. I mean, we're in an election year where I think the pandemic, the adjustments, the mailing system has will hinder or some blunt some of the impact that the Democratic voters will have on this election. Let's be honest about this situation. There are things taking place that are absolutely pragmatic. The Supreme Court saying that Wisconsin cannot count ballots that's received after election day is pragmatic. They make that decision literally with 10 or 11 days to go to November 3rd. Even if someone put their ballot in the mail today, it's questionable whether or not it will, or put it in the ballot 10 days before the election, it's questionable whether or not it will arrive on time. That is a problem. In Pennsylvania, you have a situation in which during the primaries, individuals indicated that they wanted to receive a mail-in ballot. They click that box. And then if they're out of state, they want to receive a ballot. They ask for a ballot, then they get an email saying that they now have a duplicate ballot and it's been declined and they can't receive that ballot. You have states that are throwing out thousands of ballots. This is all pragmatic because information is changing day by day. And one of the reasons why there's a major voter suppression and voter disenfranchisement in the Black community is because of a lack of information. And when that information is not provided and not clearly stated and known, it's difficult for individuals who even want to come out to vote to be able to cast their ballot. And they're also discouraged when they pick up the phone, they try and call City Hall, ask about questions. You have the wait long time to get a response, and then you go out and you vote. You're waiting 3, 4, 5 hours. And then finally, some pieces of mail just aren't finding their way where they need to be for whatever reason. This is all an issue. And I think that it's going to be a greater issue for Democrats than Republicans because Democrats are more likely to mail in a ballot, to practice safe measures. Listen, COVID has become an ideological issue, whereas the Republican side is more likely to disregard that, to hit to the polls. We've already seen some numbers indicating this. And so COVID, I think, will impact and stunt the potential landslide that we would have seen had this been any other election year. So it's closer than I probably gave indication of at the beginning of my
Okay. All right. Well, so I think that's a very balanced and reasonable assessment from the both of you as to where matters stand. With respect to, I think that our audience would be particularly interested in how you view Mike Espy's race in Mississippi and Jamie Harrison's race in South Carolina and Raphael Warnock's race in Georgia. If either of you could speak to those three races and give us a sense of where that stands, or where they stand.
Sure. I mean, I can start. Overall, there's 35 seats in the Senate up this year, and 23 are Republican seats that can be flipped. The ones that you named are very critical. I mean, just starting with Jamie in South Carolina. I think he has outperformed in ways that the Republican Party never saw coming, which is incredible, right? And I think, I again, this is my optimism hat, but I think Jamie has an incredible opportunity to actually become a U.S. senator. And I think that comes from what we're facing. We are in a reckoning, we are in an uprising. And I think, we'd be remiss to really talk about why, Dr. Gillion made it very clear, there's one assessment that we would make as strategists, back in 2018 that we could never make today, because we are facing so many different uh, just scenarios, right? We are literally in a pandemic, which even feels odd to say, but we're in a pandemic. We are in a racial and justice reckoning in this country. And I think we saw that come to fruition in the primaries. And we are going to continue seeing what that looks like at the ballot box. But what we're also having to stand in is it's coming from both sides. There are folks that are going to vote for equality, and there are folks that are going to vote for inequality, right? And there is a impassioned vote that folks are casting at the polls, whether it's by mail or in person. And I think that's why it's really hard to look at these polls right now and be able to say someone's leading versus someone is not, because I think that what we're voting for, quite honestly, is very different. I don't think that this is about a Joseph Biden and Kamala Harris, or I refuse. Ticket. Sorry. Right. I just can't. I can't bring myself. But I think that we really have to acknowledge that, right? And so when we talk about these Senate races, it's very much the same. But I actually think in the local ballots, we have much more of an opportunity to truly flip these seats. And I think Mike SB and across the Southern Belt, quite honestly, I think this is a time of reckoning for sure in the South. I even feel, and I've been working in or peripherally around Texas, trying to get Texas to turn blue for a number of years, right? And so I think that, while we might not be turning Texas blue this year, we are every year inching closer and closer and closer. And I absolutely think that in this uprising in the Southern Belt, we're going to see down ballot races swept. This is the similar, and Dr. Gillion, you said it very well. In 2018, having a record number of Black women elected to Congress, a record number of women elected to Congress, a record number of new politicians elected to Congress. I mean, this is what we're seeing in response to this reckoning, right? And we see it more in the down ballot races. So while the top ticket it's too close to call, I'll already say it, right? But I think in down ballot, we're going to see a landslide, and I want to speak that into fruition, especially when we come to some of these senatorial races.
Okay. All right. Dr. Gillion, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah. That was very eloquent, Ms. Bryant, and absolutely right on point. And I agree with basically everything that you've laid out. I would just add that in looking at some of those races, and let's say, the Jamie Harrison and the Lindsey Graham race, that's a tighter race. I think the Warnock race is, I don't want to say it's in the bag, but it's leaning in his direction. I think the latest polls might have had him up the high single digits, around 8-9%, and that's pretty good. But the Lindsey Graham and the Jimmy Harrison race is really interesting to me, because that's a very tight race, and I think if Harrison is able to win that, that will say a lot. I think that the various individuals have been critical of Lindsey Graham. And I think Lou Dobbs even came out and made comments about how, you shouldn't support of Lindsey Graham. But Lindsey Graham finds herself in a unique position. And it's amazing how races can dictate people's actions. And because Lindsey Graham is leading, or was leading, this Judiciary Committee, trying to push through that nomination, he felt like, he was next to that fire. He had to act, and he moved heaven and earth to get that nomination through, which is potentially pragmatic. I don't know if that's going to sit well with a lot of people in South Carolina. I imagine that people might be split on that issue. But the reality is that if Jamie Harrison is able to win that, that'll be a major change for the Senate. Listen, if the Senate goes in the Democratic direction, I think we're going to see a lot of changes. One of which I think will be, let's call it an extension of the Supreme Court. I question whether that there'll be 9, and it would be nice for I would say Biden, Kamala Harris to have that ability to change the judiciary if they wanted to. But this is the way that I see local elections. I believe that what takes place on the ground in local election really affects the way in which individuals vote. And by saying that, I point to something that I study, which is protest activity. I keep going back to this in movements and outcries for justice. When protest takes place, people tend to think that it is a national phenomenon. It is not. It's a local level phenomenon. Representatives look in their backyard to see what are people complaining about? What are they talking about? And protest serves as a signal of discontent, of problems and issues. If you were to run any sort of statistical analysis or algorithm, you'll notice that the individuals protesting in local levels, at the local level, they're able to influence that local representative, House representatives, and even senates if it's happening, senators if it's happening in their state. So I look at the last couple of months, you've had a ton of protests happening in places in which you might also have some very tight races. It's mobilizing individuals to come out and to engage and to vote. And I think that that is going to carry the day. So I expect there to be a lot of shifts and changes moving once again in the direction, I think, of the Democratic Party, especially if we continue to see this mobilization effort in the Black community.
I think I think that is so spot on, and I'm so glad that you said that, because I typically I tell people, with When Black, what we've been doing is we've had a lot of content that's been in support of these protests and these marches, and what we talk about is, stay focused, keep winning, because I don't think that people really understand that this movement is winning. And a part of that validation is my firm, or the firm that I work with, AB Partners. We actually did research for the council coming out of the George Floyd murder. And the council there came to us and asked to do research around the protests and what people were asking for, in order to make their recommendation that they put forth to start defunding and taking funds away from their policing. And that's something that doesn't, the average person doesn't really realize, that these things actually happen because people are taking to the streets and making their voices heard. And so I love that you talk about, especially whether it's Senate or Congress, but in my case, even, the local council really sought out understanding, what are our communities saying? Are they with these protests? Are they not? What are they asking for? What should we put forth? What would this legislation do? What would this legislation do? And so I was incredibly grateful to be a part of that. But I think that is exactly, what we want to get across, is that these things are effective. Marching is effective, right? And so they are actually going to impact changes for years to come, but it impacts these races even more as we talk about election cycles.
Well, let's see if we can just kind of drill down a little bit and become a little more granular in our conversation. Um, I think that so Miss Bryant mentioned she mentioned two things in her comments that I wanted to kind of explore a little more with the both of you. And and what I want to explore basically is under the rubric of kind of the notion of the complexity of Black and Brown constituencies, and would like to know your thoughts on the ways in which uh, these communities converge and diverge. I'm thinking, for example, with respect to the Latinx communities, I use communities in the plural because I'm not sure that what's happening, for example, in Texas among the Latinx community there is the same as what's going on in Florida, in particular in the Miami area, right? And it seems to me that to the extent that that represents a kind of divergence, or even a divergence between what's going on in Miami and what's going on in Orlando, with respect to the different interests between Cuban and Puerto Rican communities there. And so that suggests to me that uh, you know the issues may be different for the different components of the Latinx communities, and perhaps you can address that. But as well, I'm interested in how we might understand um, the Black community's perspective on things. Ms. Bryant referred to defunding the police, which um, you know strikes me as an eminently reasonable idea. But as I recall, when that initially kind of rolled out a couple of months ago, it took a little more. It took a little time to try to understand. Okay, what does defunding mean? And I was particularly struck by Congressman Jim Clyburn's response in South Carolina, in which he was kind of vehemently opposed to the idea and rejected it out of hand. So I think we've had more conversations subsequent to that moment. And I think that my sense is that many, if not most, in the Black community and in other communities better understand what defunding the police means and the importance of it. In your city, Dr. Gillion, we just witnessed just a couple of days ago this come home in a most tragic way with respect to Mr. Wallace's killing, which was just senseless and so unnecessary. Had there been this prior, reinvestment of resources in ways that better serve Black and Brown communities. So, could either of you just kind of talk about um, the ways in which Black and Brown communities need to kind of sort out whatever differences there may be, both within and between these communities?
I I struggle here because what I really want to ask is why, instead of us asking why to defund the police, no one asks why are we investing in Black trauma, right? No one asks that question. No one asks why are we investing in continuing the trauma and generational trauma of Black and Brown families. That to me is the better question and conversation. When you say why defund police, it is diminishing the conversation. That to me, that's the entire conversation. So if we want to have this, if we want to direct this panel around this, I'd rather focus on why are we continuing to invest in the trauma of our communities, I'd love to have that conversation. And this isn't an attack on you, Dr. Gomez, but it is really, to me, the premise of this conversation, because it shouldn't come down to the business. And I respect Jim Clyburn. He's done much for our country. But this is where I have to draw a line in the sand in his position, because this isn't dollars and cents. When we're looking at Black and brown bodies dying in the street, this isn't dollars and cents. I want to know why we're investing millions of dollars in a system that doesn't work. Policing doesn't work. Evolving slave patrol did not work. So when are we actually going to talk about investing in mental health aids, investing in the services that will come to the aid of our communities? What happened in Philadelphia yesterday is exactly why we have to defund the police, because we are continuing to invest in our trauma. We are continuing to have Black and brown mothers pleading for their sons or daughters' lives, right? And so this is the conversation that needs to be at the forefront on the Senate floor, on the Congress, because it doesn't work. There is no argument saying that policing works. It's just not. If we can make it a numbers game, and I can tell you it doesn't work. We can make it, when we talk about city budgets, when we talk about other services that fall on the wayside, instead of investing in our communities to make them stronger, what we're doing is divesting in our communities, and causing this divide, even causing, to go to your larger question around Black and brown communities. First of all, when we show up together, things change. So there's an investment in dividing Black and brown communities, okay? What we're seeing from a misinformation and disinformation standpoint, it is literally to bridge the gap, or excuse me, to evolve the gap between Black and brown communities, because they don't want us to show up and transform this democracy together, right? And so, there is an investment in suppressing us, in our oppression. And that is policing. That's our systems. That's our criminal justice infrastructure that is non-existent. And so I think, sorry to be so impassioned, but I think it is something that strikes me deeply, that we have to discuss defunding the police, but no one wants to talk about the investment in the trauma that we are continuing. We are actively continuing, city by city, state by state.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bryant. Dr. Gillion, would you like to comment on that?
No need, Ms. Bryant, to apologize for that passion. That's what we need. Speak that. It's exactly right. You look at what happened to Mr. Wallace as his mother is pleading for his life, letting the officers know that there is an aspect of a mental disability here, and still they shoot this man 10 times, like 10 times. I mean, so many things go through your head. Do you have a taser? You got some pepper spray? Can you de-escalate this situation in another way? And this is the sad thing about it. It's not the first. It probably won't be the last, but something needs to change, because we are investing, as Ms. Bryant put it, in the trauma in the Black and brown communities on a continuous basis. And what really bothers me is that in conversations I've had with others about this situation, they say, well, they're only trained to shoot to kill, referring to the police officers. And I'm like, well, you need to retrain them. It makes no sense for this to continuously take place. And and Representative Clyburn, I have much respect for what he has done, but I humbly disagree with his perspective, and that's okay. When his generation disagreed with the previous generation, and, you look at individuals like the late John Lewis, Martin Luther King, when they wanted to get out there and march and put forth their concerns, there were individuals who lived in that 1940, 1930 generation that was like, maybe y'all need to calm down a little bit. Ain't no sense going and engaging in this civil disobedience. But their activities moved us forward. And right now, this is considered, in my opinion, to be that point, that pivot point, this move in another direction, because this generation is saying no more. And there will be multiple voices who come into this movement, who want different things, who want to take different strategies and different approaches, but we are all moving in the same direction around racial progress, around limiting and just doing away with police brutality. I think we've become fed up with this, and so the defund the police sounds good to me. Now, how we go about implementing this, we can talk about that, but I think something needs to change, because the way that things exist today just can't continue. And then finally, with many of our Latinx communities, you have multiple issues occurring there that we also need to address. And you got issues dealing with immigration that is pragmatic. I mean, I think Biden made mention of this during the previous debate. Around 400 and some odd kids who have been not been connected back with their family. They just don't know what's going on. That's a problem in that community. And these are forms of discrimination, I think, and inequity that we can address. We can chew gum and tie our shoes at the same time. There's multiple forms of inequity that we can come together as a unit and address these concerns. And so I don't like the divisive language. I think it's pragmatic. I think it's hurtful. And I'm looking to bring us together to bring about change.
Yeah, I think those are all important points. The only thing that I would add to it is I do think that as I examine what's happening in the Black community or series of communities, and that community in and of itself is as complex as the Latinx communities, where we have kind of conventionally defined African Americans, we have Black folk from the Caribbean, we have Afro Latinx communities, and so forth and so on. So it's a complex formation, regionally distributed. And what I would like to see, and this is just my own hobby horse, but what I would like to see is more of a kind of conversation within that community as these various ideas and so forth kind of roll out. With respect to the Latinx community, I just think that it's just what's going on in Miami represents a whole different kind of assimilation process and identification with white America, quite frankly. So, and I don't know quite how to bridge that gap. But let's move on. But I appreciate all of these responses and so forth.
Doctor, I want to comment on that if that's okay, because
Sure.
I agree. From as we're monitoring misinformation, disinformation, especially in the Latinx community, what we're seeing is a complete evolution, especially in Florida. We have a network of grassroots organizations that are based in Florida, some specifically in Miami. And from a platform perspective, one challenge that is presenting to us is WhatsApp. because there's a lot of communities that typically use WhatsApp as their main source of communication. But also when we think about monitoring for some of the narratives and things that, there's altered speeches, there's, you can pretty much, someone can have me talking right now in real time, or, on a right wing site, right? Just using my image and the sound of my voice. And a lot of that is bubbling up on WhatsApp, but especially there's a lot less accountability for non-English content. So, for example, even though Facebook is generally doing a terrible job of recognizing disinformation on their platforms, but there's almost none or almost no accountability for Spanish content, because there isn't any dedicated Spanish speakers that are looking for disinformation or misinformation on these channels. And so what we're seeing, especially from right wing extreme conservatives that are spilling a ton of different narratives. For example, when the Biden campaign went and met with Haitian Americans in Miami, and there was a photo of him kneeling. And he's actually kneeling because he wanted everyone in the back to be seen, as most people do in any photo. He was actually kneeling out of respect so that you could see all of the participants in the group. It was actually spread as though he was honoring a foreign country and organizing a coup in case he became president. And I can't say to, most logical Americans, but if you see something like that that seems like it's coming from a valid source, it becomes ingrained and believable. And so these are the types of things that we are up against, especially in the Latinx community, because we're looking at things that are telling folks, you can't be a Democrat and a good Catholic. You can't be a Democrat and a good Christian. They're using faith to kind of, use this divisiveness. They are spreading literal lies around the accomplishments of Biden, of Kamala, and also lies around. I mean, we just saw Amy Coney Barrett confirmed to the Supreme Court, whose record is, I mean, I have an intern on my staff that has probably done more than her.
Right.
And so I think I just want to underscore what we're up against, especially in the Spanish speaking community, because there is no accountability there from these platforms that are actually monitoring, taking these things down, flagging them as misinformation. And so it's really, I mean, the name of our group sounds a bit weird if you don't know what it means, but the Palante side, which is forward, is really focusing in on our brown brothers and sisters to really try and figure out, how do we educate folks on spotting this disinformation and helping to educate themselves around what's the truth versus what are these lies that are being spread, which typically is coming from right-wing extremists.
That's great. Thank you so much for that, Ms. Bryant. Dr. Gillion, did you want to comment as well?
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment. I forgot to make mention of some of the policies that I'm looking forward to seeing, hopefully, out of the next administration, especially hopefully to help out the Black community. And we've had a bunch of talk about the different programs and policies that can be beneficial. You've heard discussions coming from individuals like Ice Cube appealing to Donald Trump, trying to make things happen there, and there's a lot that has taken place. But the reality is that there needs to be more policies that target Black and brown communities, Black communities in particular, along the issues of economics. For example, Trump always touts that unemployment was really low under his administration, but right now, unemployment for the Black community is significantly high. I mean, it's in the double digits. It's a problem. After this pandemic, we're going to need some redress in those communities. You look at education right now, online learning is a problem for a lot of people in a lot of communities, but particularly in Black and Brown communities, you have issues with individuals not having computers to be able to learn. You have issues with poor internet service. It was already a problem with individuals in their home being able to have internet and having computers. And now you say they have, this is the main way in which they learn. There's going to be a huge gap after this is all over, said and done. So whatever administration comes in, I don't know if we'll see this with Trump. My hope is that if Biden and Senator Harris come in, that they can put forth policies that specifically address the concerns of Black and Brown communities and not put forth these policies that are just so broad and hope that these big broad policies will somehow encompass Black people and Brown people, and they'll also benefit from that. They need to be more specific and more targeted to addressing the concerns that we're seeing and witnessing right now.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Gillion. And I wanted to mention for the audience, if you want to pose specific questions to the panelists, you could do that either in the chat room or in the Q&A section of the compartment of the screen. You know, and I appreciate that pivot, Dr. Gillion, to the issue of policy. I want to ask a general question, and then I want to save a few minutes for Q&A, should there be any. And I would imagine that it's very difficult for us to kind of talk about this right now, perhaps extremely difficult for Ms. Bryant, who's on the front lines in this thing. And, you know, we're all completely tuned into winning this election. But assuming that, and this may be a big assumption, but assuming that there is a Biden-Harris administration in 2021, I think that probably opens the door for a different kind of fight, a different kind of struggle. And we certainly need to win this one. You know, we need to get this guy out of office without question. That's one battle, but then I think we're going to have a different kind of battle. And I'm wondering what your take is on what will kind of be the overall direction of this battle. This is what I'm trying to get to. I'm thinking about, for example, the recent platform that Black Lives Matter came up with after their virtual conference, which was very comprehensive. It was a very comprehensive platform that centers race and gender, sexuality, transsexuality, as opposed to, for example, the new Green Deal, which really focuses on climate change. And it's making the argument that in attacking climate change, it will simultaneously address issues of racial and gender bias and so forth. So there's a kind of different, these are grand, you know, comprehensive schemes for really visionary change. And I'm wondering what you think about that, as opposed to a kind of incremental approach, you know, where you change a policy here or change a policy there or get some police reform over here. and so forth and so on. These plans are calling for really transformative change in the society. And I'm wondering if you have some thoughts on those.
I can speak to some of this. You know, these the main issue that I have with these major transformative programs is the link to improving the lives of Black and Brown people. Um, and you know, this just, in my opinion, doesn't pass the smell test when you say that somehow the Green New Deal is going to solve issues of racial and ethnic inequality in America. I have a hard time buying that. This is we're fighting a battle on two fronts. The first, I think, is to remove a racist president. It's as simple as that. And I think that that needs to take place. But then once you have individuals in office who have a more favorable ear to your concerns, you have to push them in the right direction. I absolutely think that President Obama was an amazing president. But when it came down to issues of race, I think more could have been done. The first Black president comes into office, and we see the Affordable Care Act. I mean, Obamacare. It was great. It was wonderful. But when it came down to issues specifically dealing with race, I think he skated on that. And you know, the data backs this up. President Obama spoke less about race than any president since 1960s in his first 4 years in office. It is a situation in which even when he had a policy, my brother's keeper, he was clear to say that not one federal dollar would go to support this, but rather private money is going to go to support this. Why not the federal dollars going to support this? He did not want to be seen as the angry Black men, and as a consequence of trying to escape, escape away from that, I think he moved too far away from addressing specific concerns and putting forth specific policies dealing with race. And you know, other presidents have put forth policies with namesakes of minorities looking to address their concerns. Even Republicans, minority business opportunity programs we saw the minority housing, and you know, these programs had problems, but they were programs specifically targeting minority communities. And what we've seen with Trump, even though I'm critical of a lot of what he does, one thing he has shown people or refreshed their memory is that a president can do a lot. A president can target a particular community and help out their concerns. So with this new administration that comes, if it happens to be Biden Harris, I think the discussion of reparations need to be on the table. I think a discussion of helping out education in Black and Brown communities need to be on the table. There needs to be some discussions about health in Black and Brown communities on the table. And it can't be, well, we're just going to clean the air and then hopefully this will improve jobs for the Black and Brown communities. It can't be that, because we have seen that when you put forth policies that are not race specific, they are inherently breeding inequality. Look at the New Deal. A scholar wrote a book called When Affirmative Action Was White, and said that the New Deal led to great deals of inequality, because when you implement these general policies at the state and local level, then that bias that still exists in America along the lines of race plays into it. And so you have to be more conscientious about putting forth race conscious policies that help out communities. And we need to hold politicians to the fire to do that. Step one, get a racist president out of office. Step two, continue to push for race specific policies.
Thank you, Dr. Gillion. Ms. Bryant, would you care to comment on any of that?
Sure. I'll just, I think, add very briefly, one, what Alicia, Patrice, and Opal created has been and will continue to be very transformative to this country and our democracy. I think if I'm understanding or summarizing your point correctly, Dr. Gillion, Black Lives Matter is an incredible statement, but a very simple statement. It is a statement that needed to be spread and said across this country and needs to be continued being said across this country. And I think what we're looking at is accountability across the board. Voting is step one. It's not the final step in being civically engaged. It's not the final step in really seeing a path forward for our communities. And so, as we talk to voters and educate folks, I think it's very important to exemplify that voting is step one. What we need to be focused on is what comes after Election Day, whether no matter who it is. While I am incredibly confident that Biden and Kamala will put forth legislation and policies that are centered to really helping our communities thrive, not just survive, but thrive. I think that it's important that we make sure that there are accountability measures in place. And to me, those are the Black Lives Matter movement. That is the Green New Deal. I don't think that these are fluff things. I don't think that these movements aren't necessary. Everything is a step into accountability. And so I think what AOC and Markey is proposing here is another step in accountability. I think what we also need to do in our communities is really educate folks around climate change and what are all the things, what does that mean to, and let's just be honest here, to a lot of Black and brown voters, they don't care about climate change because they don't see what it means for them, what it means for them individually, what it means for their families, and what it means for their community. A lot of folks are just like, what, I'm not supposed to use hairspray? I don't get it, right? In the Green New Deal, they're talking about the inequities, right, in our environment, how, you know, energy and access, right, how these things are applied to our communities versus other areas. And so I think it's very important for these things to be put on the table. Again, I think they're all, it's checks and balances. It's all around having accountability to whomever is in charge. And while I don't think it's a complete solve into the racial divide or solving racism or if you will, but I do think that they are very important and can be transformative into moving our communities forward.
Yeah, I think that's a really very useful exchange between the two of you. And I think that what it points to is that, you know, hopefully with this, with the dawn of a new administration, we'll have opportunity to, you know, to really delve into some important conversations. And that's what I would like to see, and that's one of the things that that CSOT, the Center for the Study of African Diaspora, wants to promote and generate, facilitate our conversations across the various constituencies that make up the Black community. And we have, so what we want to do is to promote that. And the other thing that we want to do, of course, we're focused now on the U.S. National elections. But of course, what we want to do as we move forward, post November 3rd, hopefully with the new administration, I think is that we want to also, as African descendant people, we want to broaden this conversation so that it escapes the confines of the nation state. And so, with the successful or alleged successful defeat of apartheid in South Africa, the whole international dimension of African American political thought has kind of fell by the wayside. So one of the things that I'm certainly going to be interested in promoting and facilitating are the ways in which the struggles of the African American community in the United States connects with, mirrors, is a cognate of similar kinds of struggles throughout Latin America, Europe, Middle East, Asia, and in the African continent itself. So this election is pretty pivotal, and so we'll see how it all develops. I want to thank. Would you like to, Dr. Gillion or Ms. Bryant? Would you like to have any concluding comments before we wrap this up?
No, I thank you again for having us. And Dr. Gillion, this was a great conversation, and I hope to chat more. And I would just leave the audience, I'd be remiss, but go vote. Whether that is to returning your mail-in ballots or voting safely in person early or on election day. But please do not let your voice be silenced, and please participate in this election.
Thank you, Ms. Bryant. Dr. Gillion.
Well, I'd like to also say thank you for having me. Thank you, Ms. Bryant, for a very engaging, passionate, and very informative conversation. Dr. Gomez, thank you for moderating this. And I think, the department in NYU for bringing us together. This is a really important discussion for us to have. And I also like to say, vote, 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 vote. Definitely go vote. And then after you vote, make sure that you stay civically engaged. You can vote at most one day out of the year, maybe 2 days out of the year if it's like a primary and then a general election. What are you doing the other 364 days? Do you not have issues? Do you not have concerns? We do, and we have to make sure that they're heard. So stay engaged.
Thank you so much. Once again, thank you, Ms. Bryant, Dr. Gillion, for your participation, for your insights and comments. This was, I think, a highly generative discussion, and I want to echo the advice of Dr. Gillion and Ms. Bryant to indeed become more civically engaged, certainly to vote if you haven't voted already, and to encourage your friends, neighbors, loved ones to vote as well. So thank you so much, Dr. Gillion, Ms. Bryant, for your presence. I know you're extremely busy, and I really appreciate your taking the time to be with us. My thanks to the audience for your participation. This session is being recorded and will be available on the Seaside website within a couple of days. So I want to thank you. Everyone have a great day, and peace and blessings.